Hi, my name is Hat here. I'm bringing you the next installment of GBA Season 2. This is Week 6 against the one and only ShadyPenguinn. The man needs no introduction at all. I just hit the big 100k subs. And if anyone seems to know me and not know ShadyPenguinn, leave a comment down below because I'm quite curious if anyone in that camp exists because I don't think they do. But anyone who follows the team knows that the last 2 weeks have not been too kind to the Oklahoma City Thunderous, with our loss to the San Jose Sharpedos due to relying on Stone Edge hitting 5 times in a row and just the atrocity that was the match against the Atlanta Hawlucha and Fizzy Stardust. And it put me in a really pessimistic state mentally as a coach for this team, and I knew for this week and to get back on my schedule I had to change that. And I've been playing competitively since 3rd generation. I played a lot on Net Battle, if anyone remembers that. And my whole thought process was going back to the basics and fundamentals. If I couldn't play the fundamentals properly, I have no reason to be in this league. So that was the whole point. Get back to the basics, get back to fundamentals. Don't make unnecessary plays that I don't need to. Don't take unnecessary risks. Make the smart play. And that's what we did. That's what we tried to do. So when the first thing I did was I had to identify threats in my win condition at the start of this battle. I game planned, I thought, fairly well for this game against Shady. I was not going to take it lightly, especially when you're playing on the big stage against him. You know, you got to bring a good game. And it was right away when I saw the team that he brought, the first threat I noticed was Darmanitan. I know he likes to run a Scarf Darmanitan, and that thing hits very hard. So some ways I had to kind of counteract that was I had a physically defensive Clefable that served a few different purposes, one of which was, if need be, kind of taking a hit from Darmanitan and then hitting it with a Thunder Wave to paralyze it, as well as maybe paralyzing Noivern if you brought that. But then I also had Thunder Wave on Prankster Thunderous. So that was kind of the big goal, is get that thing paralyzed so it doesn't become an issue. The other big threat I noticed with Shady was his Crawdaunt. Crawdaunt is always a threat, and Shady knows how to use Crawdaunt properly. If it sets up, it's going to do a lot of work, and Knockoff just hits really hard. And the third thing is Mamoswine, because I've always kind of had a problem with my team with Mamoswine, and it's hard to beat. So I actually designed my Clefable to beat that Mamoswine. And some good things to watch that I needed to pay attention to were his Mega Manectric, because that thing's scary. If I get a little cheeky and predict wrong with Thunderous, he gets a free +1 and then can Mega. And the other is Golbat, because I need Feraligatr or Thunderous alive. So we're going to get into this battle. You know, Shady's going to issue the challenge, those piercing blue eyes. And he sends out his Mamoswine turn 1, which is kind of what I predicted. It's a good lead, it's a solid lead, and it kind of runs through my team. And an interesting thing happens. So he goes for the Icicle Crash, and I miss, and then I get a critical hit on this Moonblast, which is huge. This first turn really changed the tide of battle for a few reasons. A, this Clefable has no damage on it, and his Mamoswine is almost useless in the sense of it can't really take hits. Now, while this Clefable was built to beat that Mamoswine, the battle played out differently because he couldn't use that Mamoswine as effectively and as freely as he would have liked. So that there did change the battle, in my opinion, quite a bit. But it's something you have to live with. It's like Stone Edge. It's a high-risk, high-reward move. And we're going to go from there. So I'm going to go into my Hippowdon on the switch. Golbat comes in, takes almost no damage. And my whole thing was I'm going to get the Sandstorm up just because Golbat doesn't have leftovers and then is going to be forced to roost. And the Sand also breaks any potential sashes he might have. But I figured when he did the switch into Darmanitan, he's probably just going to U-turn out because he has no business staying in against Hippowdon. And I'm just going to go for the Stealth Rock. This, again, will help break sashes, and it possibly forces him to take a turn to Defog, which could be a turn that maybe he would be forced to switch into something else or maybe to Roost. So it makes him have to Defog at some point. So I'm going to get out of there. I don't really need anything. I'm just going to go into Thunderous expecting the Defog because he knew that Stone Edge or Ice Fang probably wasn't going to do too much to him. But he does go for the Super Fang, which I'm fine with because even though that does 50% of my HP and I do have leftovers, I know he can't kill me with Super Fang. He'd have to Toxic, he'd have to Brave Bird, Poison Jab maybe, or some kind of Gunk Shot, some kind of poison move to get rid of Clefable. So I wasn't too worried. And I figured the switch to Manectric is way too obvious. I'm not going to go for any electric move like a Volt Switch or Thunder. I'm just going to Hidden Power Ice. just to see what he's going to do and what prediction game he's going to bring. Very safe fundamental play, and he goes into Manectric, which is great because it took rocks damage, it's going to take sandstorm damage, and it took that hidden power ice not very well. This is a slightly different Thunderous than I've used in the past, but it is modest max attack, so it's hitting pretty hard. And for this, I figure I'm going to go into my specially defensive Hippowdon. I got the sand still up. Even with the megas, I'm sitting in pretty good shape. And I know I can take at least one, if not two, hidden power ices. The Intimidate doesn't affect me too much because this thing mainly is my wall. But he Volt Switches. I'm not sure what he was expecting me to do. Maybe that was just the safe play on his part, thinking I was going to go into something else. But he Volt Switches, and so it lucked out on my end there. And so he's going to be forced to switch because he doesn't want to take an Earthquake. He's going to go into Golbat. And I believe I do just Earthquake to make the safe play because I didn't really lose anything if he did get a free switch into Golbat because he still took Stealth Rock damage and he's still forced to defog at some point. So I'm going to switch out of here. I have no business really staying in, and I figured this is a good chance to do this. I'm going to go into Feraligatr. And if I can get a Dragon Dance up, the only thing Shady really had on his team to stop this sweep, if I got Feraligatr up, is Crawdaunt, only because it doesn't get one-shotted by anything else. But he goes for the Toxic, and I'm like, I'm okay with this. It does hurt my survivorship and longevity because I am Life Orb as well, but I figure I can still start putting chunks in teams. So he switches out to his Mega Manectric to get the Intimidate, which I'm fine with because really I only needed the speed. The attack power is a bonus. Feraligatr is still going to hit like a truck, especially once I start getting lower and into Torrent range. And so I get that DD, which is great, and Manectric still takes Stealth Rock damage because he hasn't defogged yet. So I'm going to Aqua Jet, and Feraligatr is going to notch himself a kill. And I'm thinking this is great. I have no reason now that Thunderous outside of Mamoswine can't start running Train if need be. And Feraligatr is going to start putting a big dent into the team. But he does make the smart move here and go into Crawdaunt, which it's risky because he now loses a setup sweeper because he has to break his Sash because he hasn't defogged. And he risks losing Crawdaunt very early. But he had to go into it because this stops Feraligatr. And he can't let Feraligatr start running amok. And so I figured, for while the Feraligatr would be useful with the extra priority and Ice Punch, I can't risk switching out and having him set up. So, and Shady makes a smart play too by just going for the kill and not trying to get cheeky, set up, and then try to kill me the next turn by letting me get more damage off. He just outright kills me. So I'm going to go into Infernape. I know I can scare it out with a Mach Punch. And I figure at this range, nothing really wants to take a Mach Punch but that Golbat. And that was a critical hit. I want to see from Shady's point of view if that did more than 2 damage, because I don't think so. But I probably fake Shady out here because there's no Life Orb recoil on anything. I'm actually Expert Belt. And that allows me to take out Golbat, which is huge because now he doesn't have that wall. And I figure he brings in Darmanitan. He's got to be Scarfed, and he's probably carrying the Earthquake. So I go into Hippowdon here, which is specially defensive, mind you, and it just eats up this Earthquake, as we'll see. I laughed so hard when I saw this, because I was expecting it to do a lot more, because I'm not physically bulky. But I guess the hit's kind of, it's neutral, I guess, and it doesn't really do anything. It's not stab. But, so that does nothing. I can stay in there on that Earthquake all day. And Shady recognizes that, and he knows he can't do anything about that. He can't stay in after that damage. So he's forced to sack Crawdaunt. And I believe, again, it takes rocks damage, which is important because now his defogger's gone and rocks are up. And I believe I do get a critical hit right here, which does not matter. I did the calc after the game. That Earthquake was going to do between like 48 and 54%, something like that. So that Crawdaunt was gone regardless of the hit crit. It does add a little bit of salt to the wound because it's another crit, but it wasn't the biggest thing. And my whole thing was I was leaving in Hippowdon to die. It was death fodder against Crawdaunt. I expected him to kill me. I'm assuming he may be set up. Or no, he switched out. So Hippowdon to me was dead weight at this point. I didn't need it. And it looks like he's running some type of boa. But then I get another critical hit. This crit did matter to some extent. It mattered in the sense of it didn't change the game, but what it did is it changed the score. So I'm going to spoil it. I do end up winning. So instead of the score being a 3-0, the score becomes a 4-0 because of that critical hit. But I guess it depends if he would have been able to kill me. I'd have to look back at the damage. Maybe Tyranitar wouldn't have been able to kill me. I'm not sure. I'd have to go back and look at that. But that crit mattered to the extent of it didn't change the game, but it changed this final score at the end. But I'm just going to go back into Jupiter the Monkey, and World Ends With You reference for anyone that gets that. I'm just going to Mach Punch because all he has left is Darmanitan and Mamoswine, if I recall correctly, which definitely does not want to take a Mach Punch. But that was a great game, Shady. And I look forward to our other battle later on in the season. I'm sure it'll be another good one. And hopefully, at least this time it didn't DC like it did last year. But there was quite a bit of hack. So one of these times we'll get a battle that's a fairly clean battle. But I was definitely happy with the way I played. I got back to that mental state I wanted to. It was very confident, controlled battle. It was very hyper offensive. But it was a controlled hyper offense, and I kind of just kept momentum in my pace, and that's good. So the Oklahoma City Thunder are on their comeback. We're 4-2, and we're ready to start making some waves. So thank you guys for watching. I'll catch you next week with Week 7. And before I forget, thanks to John, aka Pokemon, for recording this battle for me this week. So make sure you go check out his channel. It'll be in the description.